You know, you say you don't have time, but here you are. You're watching videos on TikTok. Here you are. You're watching videos on Instagram. You're scrolling your social media feed. We say we don't have time. No, we don't make time. That's what Seneca is saying. It's not that life is short. It's that we waste a lot of it, right? You do have time. And if you want to study philosophy, you have to make time. Seneca says, only those who make time for philosophy are truly alive. He says, don't treat it like it's some side project. Everything else is the side project. Self-improvement, getting better, that's the main project. And you can have time for it if you choose to make time, if you stop wasting time, if you stop spending your time doing nonsense like watching this very video. So go do it. Put down the phone and go do what you know you need to do.
No amount of external possessions will ever make you feel good or feel good enough. And there's no greater proof of this than looking at some of the richest, most powerful, most famous people in the world. How many of them are miserable? How many of them sadly kill themselves? So the idea that it's going to be different when you get them is just a lie that we tell ourselves. It might be good for the human species, it might move the ball forward, but it ultimately takes us to a kind of place of spiritual and personal bankruptcy. So at the core of Stoicism is a contentment with this present moment, because that's all you have. And it's a gratitude for the present moment. I don't think it's a coincidence that they call it the present moment. It's a gift. And so you want to learn to be grateful, to focus on what you have, not on what you want more of, to make use of what you have, not to think about all the schemes and work you can put into getting more.
I think if you were to have one simple habit, which is the night before you go to bed, think about when you need to wake up to truly support yourself. And then intentionally set your alarm. And if you want to get really intentional with the science here, make it like a random odd number. Don't make it 6 o'clock, make it 6:17, because there's a purpose behind that. And then when that alarm rings, don't think about it like an obligation. I want you to think about it like it's a promise that you're going to practice keeping. And this is where you can use the 5-second rule. You're just going to count backwards 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to interrupt all of the desire in your mind and body to stay in bed or to hit the snooze button or to argue against what you need to do. And you're going to push through that resistance and take action.
Seneca says that life without design is erratic. The idea of having a routine, having structure, reducing the amount of variables and randomness in your life is, I think, a key part of performance. This is why athletes have routines. This is why practice is at a set time. This is why Lombardi would keep things on Lombardi time, like punctuality, because you want to keep things contained. You want to keep chaos and disorder away. You want to get away from erraticness, and you want to get towards purposefulness. This is why athletes have rituals that they do. This is why they have even superstitions. I think this is just a way of reinforcing structure, of getting to a kind of routine, getting to the right headspace. So think about all the ways in which your life is erratic and without design, and focus on creating structure and design there, and you will see improvements in your performance as a result. There's a great expression that you become like your friends. Show me who you spend time with, the expression goes, and I'll show you who you are. The Stoics have a slightly different tweak on that. They say you become what you give your attention to. So if you watch nothing but polarizing political news, you're going to become a polarizing, politics-obsessed person. If you watch nothing but celebrity gossip, if you spend all your time following influencers on Instagram, you will become like that. But if you immerse yourself in great book, if you look for things that are positive, things that are empowering, that is also what you will become. You become what you pay attention to. You become where you focus. Mark Aurelius says, we are dyed by the color of our thoughts. I think we're also dyed by the influences. We are what we eat, what we put in through our eyes and our ears. So what are your influences? What are you taking in? That's going to determine who you are. And most of all, I think it will determine the quality of your life. The most important thing you can do is get up early. I know it's hard. I know you'd rather sleep, but Marcus Aurelius writes this in Meditations. He says, is this what you were put on this planet to do, to huddle up under the warm blankets? He says, why aren't you getting up and going and doing what your nature demands? People who love what they do are willing to wear themselves down doing it. If you love what you do, if you want to be productive, you have to get up early. And if getting up early is hard, you know what? Go to bed earlier. It's not that complicated. Get up, get moving, do it early, own the morning. That's how you have a good day. Tackle the hard stuff first, and do it before other people are up, before the distractions, before the email, before the obligations. Get up early, do it now, have a good day. We know the Stoics were big on routine. Seneca says life without design is erratic. So some daily practices from the Stoics that everyone can use: wake up early, spend some time with a journal, think about value you can create for other people, for the world. Concentrate like a Roman, Marcus Aurelius says, like the thing you're doing is the last thing you're doing in your life. Work for the common good. He says the fruit of this life is good character and acts for the common good. And then Seneca talks about putting your day up for review. At the end of the day, stop and think, what could I have done better? What can I improve? What difference did I make? How did I improve myself? And then as we go to bed, the Stoics say, think about that this was your last day on earth. Your life is over. And then when you wake up the next day, you're grateful because it's all bonus time. It's all extra. You're playing with house money. And that's how the Stoics go through life.
You got to stop worrying about the things you can't control. So the Stoics, the only thing that mattered is what was up to us. And Epictetus talks about saying like what's up to us and what's not up to us. The things that are not up to us, we can't worry about. And we can't give them control over our happiness. But our actions, our thoughts, our opinions, this is up to us. And so when he says there's only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things that are beyond our power of will. If we can't impact them, that's other people's opinions, that's the weather, that's how tall we are, that's what our face looks like, it's not worth worrying about. What it is worrying about is the actions that we take, the thoughts that we have, the decisions that we make. Your happiness should only be dependent on things that you control. But so many people, they put their happiness on a platter and they say, you know, I will be happy when I have X. I will be happy when I get Y. And then these people don't get these things and they're not happy.
There's a story about a great Roman politician. Some men were sent to bribe him. They go to his house, which is this small, modest house, and they come into his kitchen and they see him there, this great, powerful man boiling his turnips. And they turn around and leave. They realize that it's impossible to buy someone like that. They realize that his needs and his wants are so small, that he's so self-contained, that there is no way to influence him. So when we think about frugality, it's not just that we're living beneath our means, that we're avoiding unnecessary things or flashy things. We're not just doing this to save money. We're doing this because it makes us independent. The more you need them, the more power they have over you. The great Bill Cunningham, the photographer, he says, if you don't take the money, they can't tell you what to do. If you don't want the stuff, if you want what you have power over yourself. 3 key lessons from the Stoics. Number 1, amor fati. It didn't happen to you, it happened for you. Fate chose this for you. Accept it, embrace it, bear it, make something of it. That's the idea of amor fati. Marcus Aurelius says a fire turns everything into fuel and brightness. That's amor fati. Number 2, it's about what you do for other people. Marcus Aurelius says the fruit of this life is good character and acts for the common good. The Stoics weren't trying to study this philosophy to be better sociopaths, to be able to make more money for their own sake, to be more famous. It was about what they do for other people. You're moving the ball forward for humanity. Number 3, this puts the other 2 in perspective. Memento mori. You could leave life right now, as Marcus Aurelius says, let that determine what you do and say and think. Life is short. Do everything as if it was the thought or action of a dying person, Marcus says. Life is fragile. Live while you can. Seize the day. Those are 3 great lessons from Stoic philosophy you can apply right now.
By talking too much in a meeting or in any kind of situation, you make people inadvertently smell weakness on you. A lot of communication between humans is nonverbal. We feel we sense something from you and it communicates and we have an impression. And people who talk a lot generally give an impression of they don't know how to control themselves. Whereas people who kind of say a little bit less kind of speak in riddles almost, who say, yeah, that's great, I'll think about it, or whatever, gives off an impression of power, as if they know more than they actually do. Because the game of power, a lot of it has to do with appearances. So I studied, for writing the book, some of the most powerful people in history, kings and CEOs and presidents, and inevitably they had that quality, or they knew how to control their tongue. The other thing is, if you talk too much, you're going to inevitably say something stupid.
Right.
As you're rushing out of a moment, you're rushing away from life. Seneca talks about, he says, don't think of death as happening in the future. Think of death as happening right now. He says, because the time that passes belongs to death. When you die, you're like, you've lived 80 years, but you've also, that's 80 dead years that can never come back. So if you think about the time that passing as being death happening, like every minute you're getting closer to death. You don't want to rush through a moment. You want to fully experience the moment. This is life. And when you're rushing away from it, or you're rushing toward death.
I want you to start being honest with yourself, because I think if you're honest with yourself, you become a better human being and you're happier. Nobody likes to admit that they're envious, but everybody feels it. You were my disciple, or whatever you want to call it, mentee, not disciple, apprentice, not disciple. And then I read that you're higher up on the business list of writers than I am.
That was only because my book was for sale for $1.
Okay, it doesn't matter. I can't help but feel a pang of envy. Everybody feels that. We are always comparing ourselves to other people. It's how the human brain operates. On a very basic level, we process information by comparing. We do this socially. How does that person have more than I do? Why are they getting this attention and I'm not? You are feeling envy. Everybody feels it.